Thank you. We just wanted to say thanks for bringing us here. I actually learned so much more than I expected to learn. So thank you. And Debbie, where I don't know where you're at. Love you. Thank you for including us.
Yeah, this is an organization we really didn't know about until Debbie introduced us, and we're very thankful for her doing that. And we're excited to take what we've learned today and take it back to our executives and get SAFE certified as an organization.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And I wanted to bring up some things about what Exertis has done, or Exertis Almo. They have a solar panel initiative, and they annually reduce CO2 emissions equivalent to 115,000 gallons of gas, or 2,400 barrels of oil, or 1.13 million pounds of coal, and 26,000 trees saved. So that's pretty amazing. Almo transitioned all their warehousing to 100% solar. Okay, speaking of visionaries, we have 4 of them. I'm going to introduce them and ask them to come up on stage. We're going to be discussing sustainability as the future and what our industry can do to secure a more sustainable future for our panel and all who inhabit it. Our principal focus will be on how industry stakeholders can align with the SDGs to make progress in the areas that we can have a meaningful impact, including controlling electronic waste and the government's role in legislation, regulation, and programs to control and manage it, like life cycle emission reduction, reducing energy use, and guidelines for reuse, repurposing, recycling, and proper disposal of AV equipment. So I want to ask our panelists to come up on and have a seat. Althea, Catherine, Carlos, and Keiko. Keiko Yokomawa, Director of Corporate Environment at Sony, rounds out our panel. Keiko manages the Regional Environmental Office for Sony's North American operations, ensuring the adequate implementation of the company's global environmental management system and product compliance to various environmental laws and standards. She establishes strategies for sustainability, developmental policies and guidelines, and implements Sony's sustainable initiatives. She also manages internal and external environmental communication, stakeholder relations, and sustainable employee engagement initiatives. What Sony does, the rest of the world watches, and we're very fortunate indeed to have Keiko with us today. Okay, we're going to get started here, and I'm going to start with Althea. Althea, so share with us, and this is a great story about what SURE has done to align with the SDGs.
So next year, 2025, 100 years for SURE. Okay? Yeah, that's an accomplishment. So the founder, S.N. SURE, he ingrained in our core values an affinity to the planet and to doing the right thing. So it's in our DNA. I like to say we were sustainable before sustainability became sexy. But we had to kind of really look at ourselves in our current state. What were we doing? Were we walking the talk? So we had a hard look at ourselves, and we assessed ourselves against the 17 sustainable goals. That's how we started, and that started probably around 6 years ago. We literally took all the 17 goals and went around our company and said, what are we doing already? And what do we need to do more? Okay, so we had 9 of them that had a direct impact on our business, right? Obvious, responsible consumption and production, right? Makes sense. Even number 14, the one about the water, had a direct impact on our business, right? At the time when we did this, there were 4 of them that had an indirect impact on our business. And then 4 of them that weren't related to us manufacturing microphones, right? So if you click through, there's some animation. So we knew what we had to focus on. And once we started to implement some of our corporate social and responsibility efforts, number 10, number 5, and number 3 moved up to have a direct impact on our business, right? So that's how we started, and that's how our journey started 6 years ago. We have a cross-functional team of associates that are focused on our 4 pillars: associates, community, product, and environment. And it's all centered around the 17 goals. That's how you start. You have to look at yourself, right? You have to make sure your house is in order before you start talking. And that's what we did. And it was a difficult conversation. Some of the things that we thought we were doing, designing sustainably, maybe not. Our products are known for their longevity, right? The SM58. On the 50th anniversary, everyone got an SM58 at Shure. It's been around for a while. Right? So that's how Shure has kind of started our journey and how we've been connected to the 17 goals.
And Althea, just to follow up on what you've shared with us, it's amazing that you started this journey 6 years ago, where most American-based companies still are yet to learn about the SDGs. I wanted to find out, how did you learn about the SDGs, and then what has been accomplished in the past 6 years once you put your plan together?
So Shure is big enough that we have all these departments and all these engineers and all these scientists, right? So we have environmental people working for us already. So we knew about them, right? It started with leadership. So you've got people in this room, so real quick, a third. That's how I live my life, in thirds. A third of the people in this room, you're passionate about it, you're gonna move the needle. There's a third that is open to it, right? Want to learn about it. And there's a third that climate change what? Right? That will never be convinced, right? So we were focused on that 2/3.
Great. Thank you, Althea. And I wanted to ask now, Keiko, how you view business role in achieving the SDGs and what Sony has been doing towards this goal.
Thank you for having me. In our case, I had an opportunity recently when UN had that recent SDG summit to kind of listen to various leaders and kind of speaking with the business leaders at the same time. And as you read through those midpoint reports that was issued in preparation for that SDG summit, it really highlighted how critical the business role would be in order to really play the catch up on many of those SDG goals that have been identified as somewhat lagging compared to where we want to be. So that was a good kind of a reminder and refresher in a way to recognize the critical role and the expectation, the opportunity, and the responsibility that the business can provide. That can be positive, that can be negative if it's mismanaged. So for us, we started the journey fairly early, especially on the area that I am focusing on from the environmental sustainability. So we have set our Road to Zero environmental global plan back in 2010. And that is, we started with the 2050 as our long-term goal. And we cover every aspect of our product life cycle stages, starting from the product planning, designing, to supply chain, like what you're going to procure, how you're going to manufacture, how you're going to deliver, how users are going to use our product, and how we're going to dispose or support the disposal of our unit. And then how we're bringing the innovation to this kind of the ecosystem. So ever since then, we have been kind of back calculating where we need to be for every 5 years. The 2050 is a long time. When I first heard, I think maybe to your thesis, the 1/3 of the employee felt that, oh, I'm going to retire by then. So that was some employees' attitude. But we wanted to make it something relatable by having those medium-term targets. We call it green management. So right now we're working toward the 2025 goals and assessing how much progress we made in certain area, but maybe we're lagging in other area. So we're kind of assessing constantly to see where we need to kind of move the needle and where that focus area should be so that we can march toward that kind of a vision. And that vision include climate, but also the resources that we use. Our product is inevitably really dependent on the resources. Our customer use it with the electricity. So all of those are part of our plan and the programs to reduce our footprint toward those goals.
Well,
Can I jump in real quick? I'm so glad you brought that up because I don't think I answered the second part of your question. How is the goals kind of led action? Goals. We've created goals around our packaging and how we want to reduce the packaging. We've created goals around how we want to reduce energy. So that's how it's driven our business imperatives.
Terrific, Althea. Thank you for sharing that. And Keiko, I just wanted to follow up and ask you two things. One is, how do you educate both the employees of Sony and then your greater ecosystem, your markets, your customers on the SDGs, on your the goals of that you have set forth, and what are the challenges in bringing that to your greater market? That's a big question.
It's a constant challenge, but I want to consider that to be a journey, right? It's a big goal, but we want to think that we're making the step forward. I'm really pleased to see so many employees, especially younger generation, so committed to the importance of the sustainabilities. And those are the people that we can tag team and get their own ideas, and we try to empower them taking their own action. I was fortunate enough to have my colleagues from the business side who saw the importance of sustainability, who were able to bring me here. So that's another way or example that kind of a like-minded co-workers are helping each other and see how we can incorporate the sustainability into the everyday business. So I think there's a lot to be done, and it's a challenge to really engage both internal employees, but also external customers and wider stakeholders. I think that's one of the key areas that we're focusing on, how to share what we are doing, but also how to kind of ask customers to take part in this journey together. So the communication is, I think, one of the key areas that we have some work to cut out for us as well.
Thank you, Keiko. And Catherine, I wanted to ask you to weigh in on how can stakeholders in the AV industry align with the SDGs to achieve these results?
Great question. You'll hear similar threads with all of us, and we've been through similar journeys, probably different highs and lows within that journey. Stakeholders definitely have an important piece of it. Our leadership definitely is driving this vision and this. The purpose of LeBron is improving lives, and clearly sustainability and our stewardship and the environment is a big piece of that. So it's core to who we are. Equally, all of our suppliers, we're working with them to have the same vision of reducing their carbon impact and also increasing our diverse supplier base. So there's pieces of that puzzle that are important to us. Equally with you and our customers is understanding how we can meet the objective together and showing and providing communication and education on you have new awareness possibly or a little refined awareness of what the SDGs are today. Working together because we're deep into design thinking, understanding of what you need from us so that we can help you and your leadership as well to grow and accomplish what we're trying to do at that end of it. We have we're on our 5th roadmap. Each roadmap is 3-year period, so that allows us to take that large goal and make it more manageable for our team so that it doesn't feel overwhelming. I don't know who was in the workshop yesterday and felt when you read the detail of what was behind it, how big that gap is from here to the end of our goal. But making those more manageable in a roadmap that's 3 years is helpful for us too. And then equally, stakeholders such as EPA, working with them to do energy audit in our facilities to making sure that we have new ideas, fresh ideas. Again, diverse backgrounds and groups help us with that, but also bringing in outside stakeholders on energy use to bring us new ideas to reduce our impact as well.
Thank you, Catherine. And I have a follow-up question for you. Legrand is a global company with many, many different divisions. And over the past few years, you've purchased companies that were really U.S.-based, Chief, Daylight, on and on. So, how are you aligning these companies that now have become Legrand with your sustainability goals, with aligning them with the SDGs? What have been the challenges and what has been the progress?
Well, I think there's a lot of pros and cons in being a large organization. A lot of it has to do with resources. We have great resources and great passion and great experts that join us when we start to be collaborative. So those are the opportunities we have to share the message, to your great analogy of a third, right? There's someone leading and being great champions. My role was created last year to bring horizontal awareness across our organization so that there's an understanding, because the first step is awareness, education, and building that, understanding of where we need to go. I don't think it's too hard, and there is a journey and it's a lot of work, but with the excitement of what we're trying to accomplish, it gets easier as you're working with the different segments within our organization. We all have the same vision of being environmental stewards, as I mentioned, and helping our customers to create amazing experiences. So with that in mind, it's easy to get to that path.
Thank you, Catherine. So Carlos, I would like you to share with us how we can control AV e-waste and what our role is in altering this unsustainable trajectory. Big question.
Yeah, it's a great question, and maybe we can split the question in 2 parts. First, controlling, and second, our role. Controlling, it means that we control something that, when the problem is already generated, when the problem is already occurred. That's not the idea, of course, but we are talking about controlling. But for controlling, as we said yesterday, we need to know what we are going to control. We need to know what is happening with our waste in this case, in order to control them, because we don't have information, as I said before, how much we are producing, how much we are importing, how much we are exporting, how much e-waste is generated, how we are going to control, how are we supposed to control the problem. So the first question is control, information, diagnosis. And diagnosis is a very, very important thing here, because if we don't have clear the situation, how are we supposed to control the problem? So this is the first part that we need to be careful about the control. As I said before, in this case, I can't find information about how much is put on the market here in the US. Not only in the industry, but in general, we don't know how much is actually generated here in the US or how much is put on the market. But maybe you have this information, this data. So it is very important to have and to put together this information as an AV industry to know what is the magnitude of the problem. And the second part is our role. So I think that the AV industry or any environmental zone management system needs at least three things, which are reuse, and recycling, the first R's of the circular economy. So I think that one strategy for the AV industry is to implement these R's. First, reducing. Reducing means that you need to be very careful. What are you buying from your supply chain? What does devices and equipment contains in order to, for example, hazardous substances, what do they contain? How easy is going to disassemble once the equipment becomes a waste. So this is the way that we can reduce the impact, the negative impact on the environment, but also on the health. And also reusing. Most of the times, probably you can reuse something that you already have or a colleague have. So this is one of the other things that of strategies that we can take, and then recycling, which is to tackle the problem at the end of the fight, which is not idea, but the problem is present, so we need to tackle in that way as well.
So, Carlos, your role in Latin America has been to work with not only the private sector but also with governments on, putting in place regulations, legislations, and programs to control and manage e-waste. And one of the things that struck me when we had our planning calls is when you asked me, well, are you going to have the EPA here? And I said, well, the EPA really doesn't doesn't have regulations when it comes to our industry. And you were surprised. So I wanted to get your perspective on what the government's role is.
I think that the role of the government is really important here in this case, because they give the line, they give the roadmap of what to do in the country with, in this case, e-waste. It's not an easy question because I know that they are not as bold as we would like, but I think that the main role for them should be this roadmap. I have seen many policies around the world, but what I've seen is that the policies are focused only on the end of the bike again, but we are doing very, very little in prevention. So I need the prevention is the key word here, and most policies should be directed in this sense, because we need the people to be aware, we need the people to be conscious about the problem, the magnitude of the problem, and what is happening with these residues once it's generated. So in Latin America in particular, there are some cases for policies for with national strategies for e-waste management. And these strategies are focused mainly on raise awareness in people, because as some studies shows, this is the first thing people are aware. So if we don't know the magnitude of the problem, we are doing nothing. So and there is a disconnection between the intention and the behavior of consumer. That's what some studies show. By the way, there is a very few studies on behavior of consumer that I think is a key here in national policies as well. So most of policies that we find today, not only in Latin America but around the world, is that it tends to tackle the problem at the end of the pipe once the problem is already generated. So prevention for me is the key here. But of course, there are a lot of policies that we can see. For example, the right to repair. For example, design for repair. For example, the strategy that the European Union enacted last year in December regarding the critical raw materials. So this policy is trying to our focus to recover the materials, the strategic materials in this case, in order to take advantage of them. But I see that's few policies, and I think that we need to work more in this prevention.
Thank you for that. I think, can I have a participation in the audience? Who does global business? Raise your hand, please. So globally, there is a lot of regulation. So if there isn't regulation already, there's discussion about regulation and how it might impact how we are in the sustainability front. So for awareness, again, be tuned into or have someone in your organization tuned into what that looks like, because that will be trends for the future. California, many of you do business in California or are located here. Clearly are a leader in many of these efforts as well. So you might not be aware of how advanced we are compared to other regions in the US, but globally there's definitely regulations that are applied to this topic, and so be cautious and aware of what that means. We want to be ahead of those so that we can get back to your point of the circular economy, designing for expanding or not allowing things to end up in the landfill too early, or making sure that we're responsible in the disposal of that, the right to repair, all of those pieces. So having our product development teams being part of that process early so that we're not reactive at the end of that. So be cautious, there is a lot of regulation.
A 4-letter word, CSRD. So Europe is driving a lot of what our global companies have to do, right? So regulations are out there and they're driving the global companies. If your heart isn't awakened, then you're gonna have to be regulated. And that's what's missing in the US, Carlos. The EPA, we have policies, but there's no regulations around those policies. There's no enforcement. So the US is a little lacking in the government kind of leading the way.
I think this is a problem not only in the US, but it's generally in federal countries. I mean, Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, they face the same problem because sometimes it's very difficult to have a federal law, a national law. And I understand that, but I agree that we can do more.
Yeah.
Did you have something that you wanted? Keiko has something to add.
I just wanted to add that it is very true that we don't really have the great federal level leadership in the US, but that kind of adding the complexity for a company like ourselves, because right now there are 26 states with those e-waste regulation. That means there are 26 ways of different ways to regulate us in a way. So it's a great way to really make the recycling available. And I see that there is a great trend in terms of broadening the scope of the product that are covered by those requirements. There are also more requirements to communicate more to the customer so that they are aware of those recycling opportunities exist. So I think part of my compliance side of task is to weaving through those different matrix, but also from the sustainability, we want to make sure that the customers are fully aware that those recycling opportunities do exist today. And that's kind of maybe where the additional communication and engagement opportunity exists as well.
Thank you, Keiko. Carlos, I wanted to have a follow-up question with you. You brought up, and this is a very, very important point, which is prevention. Yes, we need to recycle, but, how do we prevent e-waste in the first place? And do you have examples of countries that you are working with on a national level that have put in place regulations or policies or educational campaigns on a national level that focuses more on the prevention side?
Yes, sure. I can talk by Colombia, my country. They have a national policy on e-waste specifically. And this policy, the first strategy line is about prevention. How we can get to the one kind of population that we always miss, which is children. So children is very, very, very important here because we don't know teach our children from the very beginning on how to be responsible, how to be careful with the environment, the planet. So they grow and it happens as happened with us. We are not aware of the problem. So maybe it's late. But in the case of the national policy in Colombia, this strategy is focused on this population, children, and there are some goals trying to reach schools along the country in order to educate them to be aware. So this is just one example. I know there are other examples in Chile as well, where they, through the national strategies as well, they are implementing these kind of programs in the schools. And through the project that we are implementing in Latin America, we are trying to introduce the English problem into the curriculum of the universities. Universities, I think that I give out here as well. So these young people need to be aware of the problem. And this is one of the lines that we can are doing in Latin America with the GEF project.
Terrific. Well, that leads us into the next series of questions, partnerships. And that's a core mission of SAVE is to create partnerships, whether it's with non-government organizations or educational institutions. And so, Althea, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the ways that partnerships can help us achieve our goals in the AV industry, and maybe examples of what Shure has been doing?
This is a perfect example right here. SAVE, right? How much did we learn yesterday and today? And how much of an ambassador can we be when we go out? So, one of my heroes in this discussion is an architect called Jason McCullen. He's the creator of the Living Building Challenge. At the base of his front door, he has it at the base because he wants his son's friends to see it as they go in and out. It says, all that can save us is a sustained awakening of the human heart, right? So I'm about awakening hearts, but show me the money. No, seriously. One of the reasons that, we're kind of moving, we're absolutely moving, and it's a journey. But some of the delay has to do with our short-term thinking, right? How much is it gonna cost? What do I need to do? Not understanding the long-term benefits and gains, right? Partnerships is that bridge between the awakening of the heart and kind of showing the benefit, a financial benefit attached to this, a human benefit. So things like SAVE is what is needed. Partnering with the AVIXA Sustainability Advisory Board. There's a Manufacturing Alliance Sustainability Council. We need some lobbyists in DC. We need some partners that can move the needle on some of the things. If you Google the 10 cleanest countries in the world, where do you think they are? In the EU. Regulations, right? So partnerships are key, and what Shure has done is when we've made sure to partner, SAVE, long journey with you. We hope for a lifetime, right? Partner with organizations like AVIXA, with organizations that are trying to continue to move us. It's critical because, as I said yesterday, I got some competitors in here, but there's no competition in this. I want to know what you're doing so you can help me to move the needle. I can help you to move the needle. What are you doing with packaging? Maybe I can help reduce my packaging. Because I think ultimately we have the same goal to get to the end for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, our great-great-grandchildren, to have a world that we didn't destroy.
Althea, thank you so much. And I wanted to also mirror what you were saying, which is that we see this as the beginning of a long-term journey together. When companies sign up to be sponsors of SAVE, it's much more than just a sponsorship. It's a partnership. And one of the things that SAVE can help you with is partnering with other organizations as well. And to that, Althea, I wanted to ask you one more thing. SURE is very dedicated to the community, and I wanted to find out what SURE is doing, and then maybe ways that SAVE can help you, further that community involvement.
So we have an effort called Connecting the Dots at SURE. So we have sustainability, we have inclusion, we have corporate social responsibility, right? And we want to make sure we're unified. So our corporate social responsibility group have an initiative called Amplifying the Good. And every Tuesday we highlight how we're amplifying the good, whether we're doing through our philanthropy, either monetary donation or donation of our products. So we partner not only with local organizations that are focused on, of course, women in tech. We have a female CEO, and of course focused on STEM, focused on communities that are marginalized and we can help. Focused on sustainability efforts in the community. We're constantly bringing youth into the organization and showing them what we do. You can't get a degree in an AV, set up a rack. And it's mind-blowing when we have these youth come into SURE and we show them our archive and they don't make the connection between, oh, that's how it happened. That's how audio. So Amplify the Good, we do it every Tuesday and we highlight how we're giving back to the community, because as a manufacturer, we have a huge impact on the community in how we produce the product, right? So we have to make sure what we're taking, we're also giving back.
Thank you, Althea. And I wanted to give a plug to CVSA, Commission on Voluntary Service and Action. So they're... Met him. We have an official partnership, so if anyone here is looking to partner with community-based non-government organizations, please reach out to SAVE, and we have representatives from CVSA as well here. So, Catherine, I wanted to ask you, what partnerships are you building to be successful with your goals?
So I definitely mentioned a few of them, EPA, our suppliers, our customers. And I think there's a facet of our business that partnerships does not help. We are better together. The collaborative, the ideas outside the box, maybe you're thinking so deeply that you're missing something that you haven't thought about, so bringing in others to partner and bring new fresh ideas into the mix to what you're trying to solve is always important. The supplier base and making sure that they're driven towards the same goals as we are is very important to us, so that we're managing that full life cycle of our products and our processes. So those are the pieces that are important to us. Speaking of better communities, we equally have something similar where we're working in our communities, being a global organization. We live in so many different communities and regions that we really do want to make an impact on the community for good, similar to what SURE is doing. That's important to us. And we have VTO volunteer time off that we have 16 hours for each employee and highly recommend that they do so. Also make events so that they can participate in those, but also they can do so on their time if it's specific to their interests or their passions as well.
Terrific, Catherine. Thank you so much. And I also wanted to have Keiko weigh in on your perspective of the power of partnership and collaborative initiatives in environmental sustainability.
Thank you for that question. I think there's a lot of similar-minded company within the industry, but it's so difficult to really make the movement by yourself. And I want to believe that sustainability is the space that we can kind of learn from each other and create that kind of a momentum together. So I believe in those partnerships, and for example, the CTA, the Consumer Technology Association that we're part of, saw the opportunity that how we are defining TV energy efficiency, how we are measuring that energy efficiency was kind of a predated before all of those smart speakers and other things were all connected. And the same is true for the professional side of those installation as well. So all the stakeholders came together, including the government officials, nonprofit organization and others, as well as those manufacturers. And we started to build those, how to measure the today's TV correctly. And as part of those initiatives, we are making those commitments to deliver the product that are more energy efficient, inclusive of those different use cases that we are seeing now. So that's kind of, I don't really have a, how do you say, there's some risk involved in for each company to really step up and kind of engage, and in some cases those making those public commitment, but also that's a kind of a sending the signal and inviting others to join those partnerships together so that we can discuss what's the issue that we are facing and create something that is workable for the company's perspective, but also deliver the tangible benefit to the customers who are actually using the product. So that's, I think, is one example. Another around the circular economy, I think there's another initiative that just started that we are pleased to take part in it. I think there's a lot of different approach each companies are taking, whether we're trying to phase out those single-use plastic from our packaging. That can be part of it. The e-waste recycling of pound to pound might be another aspirational goal that other companies might have. And we're kind of bringing all the ideas and approaches and try to create those learning platform and kind of stimulate each other to drive those changes. So I'm always looking forward to those conversations and get inspired and see how we can bring those back and kind of drive our own initiative toward more leadership.
Thank you. And I want to ask all three of you, if this is something that you're doing, one of the things that Carlos brought up is, as part of prevention, is to start at a very young age, educating children and partnering with schools on providing educational programs. And I wanted to find out if you or your companies are partnering with schools or partnering with educational institutions to deliver meaningful educational programs.
May I start? Yeah, definitely education is the key focus of our community engagement. We have a program called Create Action, where we are supporting different non-profit organizations who are focusing on bringing those youth and having the opportunity to really spread that opportunity to learn about the technology, learn about the sustainability, different opportunities through those nonprofit organizations. So the program is a partnership with those selected nonprofit where we would provide financial support, but also provide the equipment for them to really bring their skill level. We also support creating kind of a videos and other communication material so that they can spread their message, and then kind of try to create those long-term relationship with those organizations. So the other day we participated in the local Martin Luther King Jr. Parade, and in that experience, we were able to bring back some of those youth who were sponsored through those programs, and they were able to kind of partner with us and document some of those events together. And it was great to kind of see them engaging in the community and taking action.
Thank you, Keiko.
For the Better Communities program that we do have a pillar within that for better schools. We do programs similar to what Sure's doing. I'm sure several other companies are too, speaking to tech more than necessarily sustainability, but there are events that we have where we build solar cars and they have content regarding it, so it gets them engaged in activities and building and technology. There's definitely opportunity we have to expand what that sustainable message and that education is for those schools that we're touching as well. We're also engaged in higher ed and bringing in a pipeline of those that are interested in our industry and interested and have a passion for sustainability. So I think that those are several, depending on what particular education that we can increase our awareness and education with, but we definitely have ties to an investment and into career. Those that are coming into the organization, making sure that we're reaching out to them, understanding what they know about our passion and our improving lives, values, and our sustainability metrics and goals.
So as I mentioned, we have a corporate social responsibility division and they're focused on just that. So they amplify the good. As a matter of fact, we have a subcommittee called recruiting and community outreach. My leader is right there sitting there, Kyle Marshall. So it's a focus. So every Tuesday, as I said, we're doing something to give back to the community because we know that us just being there with our footprint is depleting some emissions, right? So examples of different career fairs, examples of different community events, examples, I can name tons of them. So it's absolutely one of our 4 pillars, community and how we give back, and it's a focus part of our strategic priorities. And that's one of the things I wanted to mention. And I know it's part of LaGrange's and part of Sony's and part of Shure. It comes from the top, right? It's, as Keiko said, it's weaved into what we do, right? I keep telling my boss, I'm trying to work myself out of a job. Meaning that I don't want this to be an initiative. I want it to be what we do, right? So lots of examples, and it's a priority for us.
Terrific. And I wanted to also share with everyone, and you probably have learned about this, we have a series of educational programs that we can partner with you on. And we also do an educational series. So we encourage people to join our educational series that we do on a monthly basis. And we want to partner with you to deliver this really important content. So Carlos, I wanted to revisit guidelines for reuse, repurpose, recycling, and proper disposal of AV equipment, and sharing with you your expertise and your insights on this.
I think that let me complement something that I missed in the previous question about the policies and the need to involve children in this topic. Just an example that I want to mention as part of the policy, one of the strategic lines in the policy, we developed in Colombia one booklet just for children, aimed to children, and it's not easy to explain technical things in children vocabulary. It's very, very difficult. But we have some examples and some videos as well that you can download from the website of the Ministry of Environment. So all of the products are uploading the website of the Ministry of Environment so that people can have easy access to that. So you can download if you want. Of course, in Spanish, but I think today is not a problem. And there was a question about the technical standards, right?
On guidelines for reuse, repurposing, recycling, and disposal of e-waste or AV e-waste.
Yeah, I think the guidelines guidelines are very, very important because it allows to level the playing field for different actors. So if we don't have this kind of guidelines, it's difficult that everyone is in the same page, that everyone play with the same rules. So this is an important thing because I know that there are many recyclers but also producers that want to do the right thing. But they say, okay, but only, why only, what about my competitor? And it's true because I mean the rules is for everyone, not just for two or three. So this, in this case, these guidelines are very, very useful as I said to the kind for all the stakeholders. It's an important thing. And we have some examples, guidelines, for example, for reuse guidelines for waste management in general in all the stages of the management. For example, since the beginning from transportation, warehousing, treatment, this final disposal. So these kind of guidelines are important. And we have some examples as well in Latin America, but around the world. We have here in the US, for example, we have the R2 standard, we have USD words. But also we have Canadian standards, British standards, and European standards. For example, the CNLX standards are for me are very, very interesting, and we are following that standards in Latin America because we consider these standards are one of the most complete. But also at the policy level, we can promote this kind of standard. For example, the European Union in their regulation, in the WE directive, they have this kind of standards as well, promoting the sorry, I forgot the word. But yeah, they promote this kind of good practices in their directive. It's about something like the right to reuse, more or less, could be the translation, sorry, because I forget the word. Yeah, so it means that as one of the important part of the directive, producers are obliged to take care about this.
Great, Carlos. And once again, I wanted to ask you, we as an industry have great responsibility in this area. However, from your experience, what is the government's role in enforcing these types of guidelines, and where have you seen this being successful, where the government has taken a role?
Well, in the case, for example, of the European Union, it is mandatory for producers and recyclers to adopt this CNLX standard. This is the 5061 standard, something like that. But you can Google then this CNLX standard. So it's mandatory, it's not on a voluntary basis, but it's mandatory for all recyclers to follow this standard. And there are some cases as well in Latin America, for example. Some countries have their own standards. In Colombia case, we have the national chemical standard for e-waste management, but also for import, in this case, only for lactose for now. But we have this kind of standard that are mandatory for everyone. So this is the role of I think this is the role of the governments as well. Something that I think that the governments should be is have this regulation on carrot and stick basis. So we need also incentives, because it's not only to have mandatory regulations issued, but we need, of course, some incentives as well for producers, for recyclers, so that we can move all together in the right direction. There are some tax exemptions, for example, for importers that want to import equipment related to environmental benefits or things like that. In Colombia, they have tax deduction if they demonstrate that they are importing equipment in that sense.
Terrific. Thank you, Carl. Final question. I want to start with Catherine. So, Catherine, as a manufacturer, how are you making progress in the circular economy and reducing your carbon footprint?
We're making some great strides. We had some great wins last year with reducing some foam that was in packaging for our cameras and our projection screens, and we're continuing down that path. The activity that we're doing is promising. It gets us exciting when we have wins and celebrate, and then we have to jump into the next activity. But as a manufacturer, being proactive is the biggest piece of the puzzle for us. So how do we watch our supply chain and our engineering teams to make sure that they're looking for the future on the right recycled content, the right materials, making sure we're not using any materials or processes that would hurt the environment, that are socially conscious, and then making sure that we know what the end of life looks like and communicating to our customers on how to responsibly dispose of after many years. Yesterday, someone mentioned that we plan for obsolescence. Many of the products that you know and love around live on actually never die. That's a great thing. So they're really robust and they have a long life. And there isn't, I came from the cheap product family. We were actually commented on from our ops team saying, please obsolete things, please. We never did. So the extension of life and making sure that that product lives as long as it's possible and or has a second life or a third life, or is disposed of properly, so that, and then we're designing those products so that our customers can do so easily. And hopefully helping the infrastructure that the EU, you saw the numbers from Carlos yesterday, of recycled, percentage of recycled per country, and the US has some growth opportunities there to make it easier for customers to do so. And we hope they can help educate others to make sure that we build that process and those infrastructure to help our customers.
Althea, do you would like to weigh in on this?
So it goes back to the sustainable goals, right? So one of the things that it's driven us to do is to focus on what we need to improve on. And one of the things was our packaging, right? How do we reduce all that stuff? The worst thing for a rental company is to get 50 boxes with 50 user guides and 50 plastic. They'll send it back to us, and they have. So we put out some distinct goals, and we can impact change on our new products. It's hard to change, the ones that have been around for a while. But we set a goal, 75% of our new products that are introduced in 2023 will have renewable or recyclable packaging, right? On the way to getting rid of plastics. And then we have a 2025 goal and 2030 goal to reduce 100%. So what we're trying to do is get ahead of the final, which is recycling, right? So we have a repair process, right? So right to repair, for those in California, I think it just turned on last year. It's coming. What's happening in Europe? Battery regulation. You guys aware of the battery regulation that's on the horizon? You better start preparing now, because if you have a battery in your product and you sell it into Europe, it's a big change, right? As I said, the 4-letter word CSRD, corporate sustainability, reporting due diligence, that was already turned on. I think January of 2023, they're gonna start expecting you to start reporting in 2026 on 2025 stuff. So it's coming. So in terms of either you're gonna do it because you want to, you're part of that 2/3, or the regulations are gonna drive you to do it and take care of what needs to happen to sustain our planet.
And Keiko, do you want to add to this?
Thank you. I think there's a lot of competing priorities. Sometimes we want to drive for use of more recycled materials back into our product, but then there's more stringent chemical restrictions against what we can utilize it today versus 10 years ago. How can you assure that what material you're getting and at the high quality that you would expect? So there's a lot of moving pieces to make those together. Also, we have been kind of thinking in the linear kind of a business model. So one of the big win that I'm hoping to achieve is that end of March is our commitment to eliminate the plastic packaging from newly designed smaller product that we have. But then we're going to move the needle to that next level. And we're working to tackle those larger product, or how can we use more recycled materials But those are also assuming we're selling the product in a kind of a one-way direction. And how can we look at that larger business model, and how can we work with the customers, and how we can work with the supply chain partners so that there are more of those value really utilized before we really hit that recycling needs. So how we can extend the product life through the right to repair or other method, how we can kind of change the mindset, that's the challenge that I'm facing today.
Thank you. I want to thank you for joining us today for this really, really insightful and informative panel discussion. So let's give our panelists a round of applause. Thank you.
2 days ago, we were competitors. I know we've said that a lot. And today we get to be all kinds of people from different principles, from different roles coming together to have discussions about how we can impact our future. And that's just exciting. And it's rare air, and it's a wonderful opportunity for us to take a pause from all of our everyday business and be able to collaborate with one another. And there are some incredibly strong minds in this room. I feel really grateful to be a part of it. So thank you for inviting Liberty to be a sponsor. Thank you to Christina for helping to develop the SAVE organization. And I hope that you all are like me when you leave this room today, you take back that energy and excitement and motivation in your own organizations and in your own communities. So thank you so much.